Foles is back in the spotlight as the Eagles are in Los Angeles to take on the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Good evening, Eagles fans, and welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Chris McPherson, joined alongside Fran Duffy as we are just a half hour away from the rematch of one of the best regular season games of 2017. However, there are much different circumstances this time around. The Rams are 11-2. They've already won the NFC West, and they hope that the road to the Super Bowl from the NFC side goes through Los Angeles. The Eagles, meanwhile, are 6-7 after a heartbreaking loss to the Dallas Cowboys. And this week we learned that Carson Wentz has a stress injury in his back. He is out, and the Eagles have turned back to Nick Foles, who started the 2018 season. And Fran, it just happens that a year ago, this time, Foles took over in the fourth quarter of that game against the LA Rams and started his magical run to Super Bowl MVP honors.
Yeah, we'll rewind like 358 days ago and remember exactly what Nick Foles did, and that was be efficient in this offense, let the plays come to you, and then just understand where to go with the football. If he's able to do that, rely on the guys around him, then the Eagles will continue to have some kind of success moving the football offensively, and that's really what it comes down to for Nick Foles.
All right, let's send it to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum where number 9 is warming up. Now, he is 1-1 as a starter this year. He got the win on opening night against Atlanta, and then the Eagles lost to Tampa Bay a week later. But a big difference between last year and this year, Fran, is last year when Foles came in, the offense was operating at a high rate throughout the entirety of the year. Last Sunday's game against Dallas was sort of a microcosm of 2017. A slow start up until midway through the third quarter, and then the offense was pretty much unstoppable for those final 20 minutes.
Yeah, and really it comes down to, Chris, it's not just one player, it's not just one aspect of it. Across the board, there were just too many little mistakes, too many details missed, whether it was guys running wrong routes, missed blocks, missed assignments, just across the board. One little thing here and there when it's 1st and 10 and you go -2, or it's 2nd and 9 and you go for +0. Now all of a sudden it's 3rd and long, you can't convert and you're going 3 and out. The Eagles cannot do that against this team. If this team, the LA Rams, is going to put up points, you have got to be able to match them. They can't afford to step on themselves over the course of this game. It's going to be a big part of this matchup.
Not against this team of all teams. The Rams have 77 first quarter points on the year. The Eagles just 28. And an odd stat, Fran, the Eagles have scored on the opening drive, but they've not scored on their second drive all season long. Good news is that the Rams, while they score a lot of points in the first quarter, have given up just as many, 75 in 2018.
Yeah, and whether they're giving up big plays through the air or they're letting up big plays on the ground, they are one of the worst defenses in the league when it comes to giving up those X plays. They allow more yards per carry than any team in the NFL on the ground. That's something that we'll see if the Eagles are able to exploit. They should have their choice here between making plays through the air or on the ground as long as they execute.
All right, let's take a look at the starting lineup for the offense. Obviously, the talk has been Nick Foles. Will he or won't he be the starter? We know that he is the guy. Carson Wentz was ruled out on Saturday before the team traveled to Los Angeles. Wentz is out there with the team, but Foles is not the only change to the starting lineup. Isaac Seumalo is out at left guard due to a pec injury. Stefan Wisniewski is in, and the offensive line across the board will have its hands full going against Aaron Donald, the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and at front 4 for the Rams.
It's a very, very good front, and it starts with those two guys. You mentioned Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh on the inside. They like to move both of those players around. The big thing with Isaac Seumalo being out of this game is if there is an injury to Jason Kelce, what will the Eagles decide to do? Will they shift Stefan Wisniewski inside? That would be my guess, and then you'll have Chance Warmack step in at guard. I would have assumed that that's how it's going to go, but it's been interesting to see how the Eagles have kind of shuffled some pieces in the past inside in the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah, the domino effects, not so much the stars. Wisniewski can definitely start and play well. It's going to be if something else happens along the line. Now, look at the run game to try to help out number 9 right there, Nick Foles. In his 2 starts earlier this year, the Eagles had 204 total yards on the ground. They had Jay Ajayi at the time. Now, Josh Adams is your lead back, and you have Darren Sproles and Wendell Smallwood. Those are your 3 guys at the position.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this LA Rams offense, or LA Rams defense, I mentioned earlier, they give up those chunk plays on the ground. They love to attack upfield. They're very much like the Eagles. Even though it's a 3-4 team, it's not your grandfather's 3-4 defense. They're not trying to stand up blockers and read and react. They're trying to attack upfield. So if you're the Eagles, you're going into this game and say, okay, Josh Adams, the best thing that we can do with him, get him downhill. Those quick hitting runs, those traps, drops, those whams, those are his best runs. Well, those just happen to work really well against this style of defense. You look at Darren Sproles, what does he do well? The draws, the screens. Those happen to also do pretty well against this style of defense. If they can get things going on the ground with both Sproles and with Josh Adams, I think it'll go a long way to success here today.
The game plan from the coaching staff will be very interesting here. Let's turn our focus to the defense. Some good news. Avonte Maddox back in the lineup at safety after missing the last 3 games with knee and ankle injuries. The problem is no Sidney Jones, so it's Rasul Douglas and Devontae Bosby starting at cornerback against a Rams offense that plays pretty much exclusively 11 personnel.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what Avonte Maddox looks like in his return. It was really, the arrow was really just pointing up, and he was getting better each and every week over the course of his rookie season. Obviously, the injury was very, very tough, but coming up against this offense, it is a big play offense. Remember, that Tennessee team that they played early in the season, it's structured very much the same way. They're going to try and stretch you out, whether it's vertically or horizontally, sideline to sideline, and try and attack over the top. Watch out for Brandon Cooks in this game on those deep passes. Avonte Maddox, don't take the cheese on that stuff in front of you. Make sure you stay over the top and don't allow anything to hit you vertically.
Look, Fred, I got to ask you. Rams are 3rd in the NFL in terms of scoring points, 32.7 per game. At home, they've scored, here are the numbers, 34, 35, 38, a season low 29, then 36 and 54 points. These are the games at home. They were on the road last week against Chicago, so they want to avenge that loss. But how did the Bears hold them to just 6 points?
It started up front. I mean, that defensive line whooped the LA offensive line, and that's where you hope that this Eagles defense can kind of replicate that effort. If Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Michael Bennett can win some of those one-on-one matchups, that'll go a long way towards this defense, really trying to slow down Jared Goff. Jared Goff last week did not look comfortable at any point in that game. If they're able to do that, I think it'll go a long way towards success.
All right, we're going to send it back to the Coliseum and welcome in Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and Amy Campbell for the key storylines and some bold predictions. Now, Dave, Fletcher Cox, we're talking about the defense here. Fletcher Cox was asked about Aaron Donald all week long, and I think Cox knows that for the Eagles to have a chance tonight, this Eagles defensive line led by him must live in that Rams backfield.
And that is exactly my storyline, Chris. The Eagles have to dominate the line of scrimmage and try to dictate to the Los Angeles Rams offense, get the football out of Todd Gurley's hands, and really put some pressure on Jared Goff, who threw 4 interceptions last week against the Chicago Bears. So that's my storyline. Amy Campbell, what's yours?
Well, Dave Spadaro, I'm looking at Nick Foles getting the start today with Carson Wentz dealing with that back injury. And, we weren't really sure until Friday who was going to get the starting nod. But, of course, Nick took all of the practice reps, so that seemed pretty obvious. This is a Rams offense that is scoring a lot of points, almost 33 points a game. So Nick Foles and this Eagles offense have a lot of work to do if they want to be able to keep up with this high-powered attack. So let's see how he looks out here.
Over-under for the number of points the Eagles must score to win this game.
Ooh, over-under for the number of points. I'm 30, upwards of 36, I'm going to say.
I think 35, 36, 38 points is about right. So my bold prediction, guys, I think the Eagles are going to play very well tonight. This is a great environment. I think that the crowd here, which is a lot of Eagles fans, and we thank you for your great support, the Eagles will lead the game at the half. And then we'll see how they handle it in the second half. But my bold prediction is that the Eagles come out smoking and lead the Rams at halftime.
That would be something we haven't seen much of this season. I watched the offense warm up. I paid careful attention to the receivers and to Nick Foles. They're looking like they've got the rhythm. They've got the energy is here tonight. So my bold prediction, this is a Rams defense that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, but if we can find one, the last 4 weeks they have been horrible against the tight end. So 3+ touchdowns to Eagles tight ends. Very bold, if we can say a weakness for the Rams defense.
Interesting, Amy, because I really want to see Nick Foles throw the ball to other receivers than the tight ends. Not just Zach Ertz, not just Dallas Goedert. I want to see Golden Tate get involved in all those receivers. So we'll see a lot going on here.
Golden Tate get involved a little bit more tonight. Yeah.
All right. For Amy, I'm Dave, Chris, and Fran. Back to you in Philadelphia.
Thank you so much, Dave and Amy. To her point, remember last season when the Eagles beat the Rams, Zach Ertz didn't play in that game, and Brent Selleck and Trey Burton had huge outings. Now, to follow up on that even more, I would be interested to see how the Eagles just respond from an emotional standpoint after everything that's taken place in the last week. So as we look at the bold prediction standings here, Fran, not a lot of time to get you on the board, so what have you got for us here tonight?
Well, you just asked me, how are the Eagles going to stop this Rams offense? And I talked about that defensive line, and I'm going to harp on a repeat performance from Michael Bennett. I think when you look at that Eagles defensive end, his ability to win those matchups both inside and outside, a defensive end and defensive tackle. This is an offense that he's used to seeing. Remember, he lined up against this Rams team twice a year with the Seattle Seahawks, has had success against this group. I think he can win some of those one-on-ones. I'm going for 2+ sacks for Michael Bennett here in this game.
Look, for me, Fran, I'm going to look at the quarterback, Nick Foles. Look, this stage is not too big for him whatsoever. He's been in this setting before. He's got weapons around him. He took all the practice reps this week, which is huge in his preparation. So for my bold prediction, I say that Nick Foles outgains in terms of passing yards Jared Goff. The question will be, is that enough to get the win? I don't know, but I think Foles is going to give this team the best chance to come out with the win tonight and at least put them in position. So those are our bold predictions. It's time to get the players to watch from the Hall of Fame duo of Merrill Reese and Mike Quick.
Chris, it's been a beautiful Southern California day, but how this night goes for the Eagles remains to be seen. Mike, who is your player to watch?
Well, if it goes well, we'll see a lot of my player to watch. That is Josh Adams, the rookie out of Central Buck South. I think if he plays well, if they stick to the script that could win this football game, it's running the ball, and Josh Adams is going to be my guy to watch.
Okay, now we all know about Nick Foles, but I'll go to the defensive side and tell you that the number to watch is 91. That is Fletcher Cox, because he has to put heat. He has to put force on Jared Goff. That's what the Bears did last week, and Goff threw 4 interceptions. So hopefully tonight, Cox is at his disruptive best. Back to you, Chris.
Those two looking stylish as always. Remember, you can listen to their broadcast. You know, because Al Michaels and Chris Collins have the call. And a lot of Eagles fans are still mad about the Super Bowl, which we don't blame you whatsoever. So if you want to turn down the sound of your TV, remember you can listen to Merrill and Mike at PhiladelphiaEagles.com/live radio. So, Fran, let's go back in the time machine a little bit here, okay? I was there for the 2007 game between the Eagles and the Patriots in some similar circumstances, okay? Eagles going on the road, huge underdogs. A.J. Feely comes in for Donovan McNabb. New England was the undefeated juggernaut. And A.J. Feely gave the Eagles a very, very good chance. Eagles actually led midway through the fourth quarter. New England did pull out the victory, but I think it showed the rest of the league that this Patriots team can be defeated, and they were ultimately in the Super Bowl. So Nick Foles has a much better resume than A.J. Feely. Nobody's questioning that whatsoever. And remember, he came in last year in the fourth quarter. Eagles were down in that fourth quarter. It wasn't like there was a big lead and he held on. He had to leave 2 scoring drives, had a huge third down conversion on his first drive to Nelson Aguilar to get the Eagles a 43-35 victory. And with that, the Eagles clinched the NFC East and relegated the Rams to the wild card round, which was very important from a playoff seeding standpoint because the Rams got bounced in the first round by the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Nick Foles, I said it earlier, you just got to be confident. You got to be poised. Let the offense come to you. That's something that Nick, when he's playing at his best, he's loose, he's comfortable. You can almost tell in the opening drive if it's going to be a good Nick Foles game or a bad Nick Foles game. You want to see early on him to be loose and comfortable. And then, to your point, I think you look at Mitch Trubisky a week ago with the Chicago Bears beating the LA Rams. Look, Mitch Trubisky, talented kid, not really where he needs to be yet in terms of his overall development as a quarterback. They were still able to move the football. So I think when you look at that Bears offense, them being able to find different ways to move the ball against this Ram defense, I think goes a long way towards the Eagles' game planning for this matchup.
All right, so as we said at the top of the show, the Eagles still trying to find a way into the postseason. The Rams are in, and I think they sensed that the window was wide open for them after a very productive first year with Sean McVay as the head coach. So they go out and trade for Brandon Cooks on offense, add more juice there. Now on defense, they brought in Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters. And you might say, and I think rightfully so, from a chemistry standpoint, how would all of these guys fit? And I think ultimately that remains to be seen, but at the very least, they are back in the playoffs.
Yeah, and for the short term, I think that's going to work. Now, we'll see how it works long term without that massive draft capital. They're going to be missing some young players for this team here in the near future. But when you look at this year's squad, it ultimately comes down to 3 people. It comes down to Sean McVay, Todd Gurley, and Jared Goff. And if you're able to chop off the head of the snake, if you're able to say, all right, we're going to stop the run, which the Chicago Bears did a week ago, one of Todd Gurley's worst games of his career, certainly the worst under Sean McVay, today, that really just grounded this entire offense because Jared Goff was not comfortable. The defensive line was able to get to him. They ran a couple of different blitzes to get into his face. And again, he did not look comfortable. He did not look good in the pocket whatsoever in that game. If you're able to get to him, I think that you can stop this Rams offense. We'll see if the Eagles are able to kind of duplicate that effort here tonight.
All right, so the Eagles still very much in the playoff picture here. Okay, most likely the road's going to have to be through the wild card, although the Indianapolis Colts did help out the Eagles today by shutting out the Dallas Cowboys. But it's very important that you have an insurance policy like Nick Foles. We show the graphic there that Nick Foles is the insurance policy. Most teams that we've seen over the years, you lose the starting quarterback, that's it for your season. You're done. We learned that last year. That's not the case when it comes to the Eagles having Nick Foles.
Yeah, and he's the ultimate insurance policy. He showed that last year. You know, we haven't really seen something like that. I mean, it was really almost the exception in terms of the norm, or instead of the norm here for the NFL. What was the last time we've seen a backup quarterback go on to win the Super Bowl? But Nick Foles showing that it could get done last year, and if everybody around him is able to continue to pick up their game, everybody does their part, that really equates to NFL success.
I mean, everyone brings up Jeff Hostetler. That was kind of the big comparison there with the 1990 Super Bowl for the Giants. Now let's look at the playoff standings here coming into this game here. So again, the Rams, the Saints, and the Bears today have all clinched their respective divisions. The Cowboys, they're still in control of the NFC East with an 8-6 record. The Seahawks losing in overtime to the Niners brings them back a little bit. The Vikings rallied the Miami Dolphins, so they're firmly in that number 6 spot. And then you look at the teams in the hunt. Washington getting the win today over Jacksonville. They're still in the mix, even though everyone thought that losing not just your first quarterback, but your second quarterback would put you out of it. And then the Panthers play the Saints on Monday Night Football.
And then benching your third quarterback if you're the Washington Redskins. I think if you're the Eagles, I think you're looking at this and saying, all we can do is control what we can control. And that means going out winning tonight. And if you can't win tonight, go out. You have to win your next 2. But ultimately, win the game that's in front of you, take care of business, and let's see where the chips fall after that. I think really the Eagles want to try and see if they can sneak into the playoffs, get that last wild card spot, go on the road, play on a Chicago team that, yeah, very good on defense, but offensively, hope you can get to Mitch Trubisky, see if you can throw him a couple. But that starts with winning one game at a time.
Guy that I'm watching here tonight, Fran, Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Had 2 big games earlier this season with Nick Foles as a quarterback, 16 catches in those games against Atlanta and Tampa Bay. And then remember, last year he was the recipient of that big 3rd and 8 reception, and he played his college ball at USC in the Coliseum. So this is sort of a homecoming for Nelson Aguilar. So let's find out what the players have been tweeting about on social media, not just the players, the team, everyone to get ready for this game. And your 6th captain for tonight, none other than Zach Ertz, who is on the verge of history, almost set to become the first Eagle with 100 catches in a single season.
I thought Amy brought up a great point earlier in the show where she talked about how the LA Rams are one of the worst teams in the league at covering the tight end. We'll see if that opens things up for Zach Ertz to kind of reach that century mark here and reach that mile marker with the overall receptions this season.
Very interesting. I think going from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles, not going to be a huge impact on Ertz's production.
Yeah, look at the Super Bowl last year. Early in the season, he was still putting up big numbers with Nick Foles under center.
All right, so again, Ertz, your 6th captain for tonight. And Dave mentioned this briefly, but the fans are out full throat. They're taking over the Coliseum there. It's great to see Eagles everywhere. It's not been the season we all expected, but that hasn't stopped the Eagles from delivering from the fans.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all when you look at the 2 fan bases and you say that you got Eagles fans who travel well and they're always going to be out in support, and then you've got LA.
All right, and last but not least, all white jersey. We saw them in the warm-ups. That number 9 looking good. Hopefully they'll put up some points there tonight there. Nick Foles there, your starting quarterback. All right, so it's that time of the show where if you're following us on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the app to watch the rest of the show. But we've got plenty more for you. We've got a one-on-one interview with tight end Dallas Goedert coming up right after this commercial break.